just
Do the
happen.
changelog what? Do the changelog what? I didn't hear it. You cut off.
It's Donna doing it from the shelter.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
So yeah, we can pull up
Yeah.
changelog
So what
screen. One
happened
second.
in the past 2 weeks on the Winglang project?
So I thought there would be a lot less this time. I don't know. Maybe I wasn't paying as much attention. I felt like there was less, and there technically was 4 less changes commits. So barely less.
Worse. Barely
Yeah,
less.
it's still a lot. It's still a lot of, considering our age and maturity and all that. It's crazy how much activity we have. Also, but more people. There were more unique contributors. 23 for the last 2 weeks, which again, that's a crazy amount of people.
I agree.
A lot of regulars, but a lot of new people. So it's the fact that we have regulars that are not on the team is also, again, another crazy thing.
I agree.
But yeah, let's get it started
Let's
with
check
our
it out.
usual intro. Wrong button, wrong place. Usual intro is Chris starting us out. So this big change was I think the last few changelogs have involved either like the library system / a module system, multi-file. Like he's been actively working on building this up. So the latest big change, breaking change also, is that classes that you define in your library files, types you define in your library files are private by default, but you can add public to them to expose them from your module per file. So like the example here, public class and a private class. If you bring that file from another file, you can access only hello, which is public, and not goodbye.
Hey, you're all good. You're all safe. Seems like your house is still standing behind you.
Pristine. And he's muted too.
Oh, damn. I said, yeah, and as you can see, it's a big target.
So yeah, so that's this the feature. It's for types. It's for classes, enums, interfaces, and structs.
So all declarations, basically.
Yeah, anything that's because I mean, right now, even in library files, you can't have non-declarations at the root scope anyway. So yeah, any of those things.
So, yeah, one thing so obviously this also applies to the library. So if I'm like actually packaging this as a library, and then so I can control which types are going to be exported in a sense, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think one thing that we still haven't implemented there is like supporting for internal public, right? Like being able to actually access something like lib.hello only from within the library, right? Like that's the thing that so now it has to be public. There's no
Exactly. And I think there's also currently an issue for like if you return a value from a class or from a function from a class method that isn't a private type, technically it technically allows you to do that. There's nothing stopping you from exposing an internal a private thing. But there's already an issue for that. So you know.
But it's not really exposing it because it's not exported from the obviously it shouldn't work.
Yeah, it's not like a crazy dangerous thing, but it's you probably didn't mean to.
Right.
You probably didn't mean to.
Yeah. JSII has protection. JSII protects against it. So if you're trying to like export a public API with anyway. Yeah, I think we're slowly getting to the point where this surface area that you're exposing from a module from a library is something that we can formally define and then also kind of manifest in other ways. So like a JSII manifest, for example, or documentation or whatever, right? There's really important meaning to like what a public API is.
Yeah, definitely. Building up those tools. We've also we've had several conversations about doc strings, which as you build up your public API, that's one of the most important things.
Yeah,
documenting it. So yeah, we're building up our tools. Our expressiveness toolbox.
I love it.
And with that, I'll go to the next one, which is a contribution from our friend Gary. Added the ability to filter the tests that you run with the regex to, like, so if you want to run tests with only a certain name or name pattern,
Nice.
do that. So I mean, it's kind of self-explanatory, useful feature. I think there's this feature. I believe he started working on this prior to us even having multiple file support. And I think testing we're going to see something interesting here with, like, if we ever add like anything equivalent to like test suites, any sort of hierarchy to test, because I think this will become even more important, and maybe we'll expand on this feature a little more in that area. But for right now, I mean, having this ability is definitely nice for certain iteration patterns as you're working on stuff.
Totally library for the win. Yeah, we have some thoughts about test suites that are actually a bit interesting. I don't know if maybe we can talk about it at the end. Like, I think it's definitely an interesting topic.
Yeah, I'm sure, and we probably an issue for it too.
Yeah.
Somewhere. So I mean, I feel like we have. I was going to try to guess how many issues we had, but I actually don't even.
How many issues?
Yeah,
Oh,
open issues.
Open 668.
Okay, I was like, is it over 1,000? Okay, I couldn't remember. Okay, cool. Anyway, I was just suddenly thought of that. Yeah, no, I'm super glad to have. I think I asked for this feature and because it was also related to for a VS Code extension to to have to interact with the test explorer with like a VS Code's test explorer. You want to be able to say run this like I'm pointing my cursor at a test, run that test.
Right.
This unlocks that ability. We haven't added that yet, but this now unlocks that feature to be easily added. So there's no issue for that. If someone wants to do it, go ahead.
Let's start by someone opening the issue.
Nah, just do it. I mean, yeah, no, you should open the issue. That's the correct thing to do. Any other thoughts on this?
Is it featured in the cheat sheet for the CLI?
I think this may have. I don't know, actually. This it was kind of right before that was created, I believe. It's in the docs. It's mentioned in the docs for sure, but I don't know. Good question.
Did we publish the cheat sheet already? I don't know. I don't remember.
I don't know either. I think we did. I just don't know where.
I know that Suf has been working on something. So
yeah. I wonder, is Sufa? No, okay. Sufa's in here somewhere. Well, she's not next though. But for the next one, contribution from Marcio. This is for the AWS CDK target. When you tried to run tests previously, it's not that tests ran like serially. They just didn't work if you tried to run more than one test file at a time. I believe this was because they were all trying to use the same stack name when they deployed. So Marcio fixed that and made sure that the different files had different stacks. So now they can all be deployed in parallel, which is much faster. It's
pretty crazy how much is going on behind the scenes when you're running tests on the cloud. Like we haven't. I don't feel like we're celebrating that enough in a way. It's also not, there's definitely some challenges there as well. But like the fact that you're actually, like, every test would deploy an isolated environment with all the resources, all the pre-flight resources, and then execute the test, and then do that in parallel for each one of the tests, and then collect all these tests together into a report and destroy all of these stacks, right? That's a lot of orchestration that's going on. And I think the fact that it's kind of leveraging the provisioning engine as a way to parallelize testing, I think it's really cool and really powerful technique. And we're using it in our coverage, SDK coverage system, right? Like the idea is that every time we release something, we make sure that it's actually running our tests not only on the simulator, which is happening during build, but also across all the targets that are supported. And so that's becoming a pretty big operation, this whole thing, I feel.
Yeah, I think even my next up change, I'll talk about that some more too, because of a change from Suf, who was our like resident champion of this. She's been working the most on that. If it works on my machine, it works in the cloud. She's been doing a lot of work to make sure that stays the case. And
we've been calling this project Cloud Cover.
I think there's an issue of talking about this whole like complicated orchestration of the test runner, because there's some hard choices to make. Like right now, the fact that we provide like super full isolation between tests is really good, but it's also really slow at scale. So there's some discussion around like, okay, what are the compromises we have to make, or can we make? Definitely, if you're interested, I don't know where the issue is, but there's an issue about this. If this is audience, you as an audience or have an opinion on that and want to provide something.
Yep.
All right. So next up, as I was saying, from our cloud cover leader, Suf added the ability to run tests in Azure via the TF Azure target, and also, I mean, the ability to like have cloud.function, which these are two separate big tasks. Like being able to deploy. I'll be honest, I don't even know what the equivalent of a cloud function is in Azure. I'm not gonna lie, I don't know what they're offering.
Azure functions.
Is it just called function? Okay, yeah. I just wasn't sure. So yeah, so implementing that is a whole task on its own, especially because of how it's like basically I would argue the most important primitive or like cloud resource that we have. Among Bucket and all those other ones. Bucket is second.
No, I think it's just at the bottom of the stack, because everything depends on it somehow, right? Like when you're even a Bucket, when you're creating Bucket notifications, then they execute functions as a result. So that's why it's kind of like it needs to be the first one to be implemented for a platform, because without it, you can't really implement anything else after that.
Yeah, that's true. So she got that working, and along with having the test runner, that whole complicated orchestration we talked about now also works in Azure. I think she's right now working on making sure that we run the Azure tests as part of our CI alongside our AWS tests. So look forward to that if you're a contributor coming up.
Yeah, and there's a lot of I guess cloud cover left to implement to support all resource in Azure, and so a lot of room for work, I guess, there.
And this is where we see and where we've encouraged most contributors to like take a piece of the pie out. Of you want to do some fun work, like adding either a method to an existing resource or adding a new resource, which is a little bigger. It's like that's just it's building up all our pieces, and it's it's just a really good way to contribute versus some of the other more maybe annoying stuff to work on, like the internals of the compiler or something.
It's easier. It's you don't need to go as deep in order to be able to do that. So it's a good way to start, I guess.
Yeah, it's like a well-defined problem because you have your contract. So like satisfy the contract is basically the ask, and you probably have other stuff to pull from.
You have reference and you have a contract,
and you have tests.
Oh yeah, all these tests.
That's part of it, right? Like the contract is into the test, and so like all you need to do is get the test to pass, and technically you're done.
And speaking of that, so Subhadeep added the bucket. So not the bucket resource, which already existed for GCP, but the way you interact with the bucket. So having like being able to do put or delete from while in flight, that wasn't working before, and he implemented the client and got it working for GCP.
Yeah, that's following the work to have functions work in GCP. Then we're
Yeah, I
able
think we only, I don't know how recently it was that we got GCP, because I was just talking about Azure. So Azure will be next up in getting this.
No, but I think GCP was also pretty recent.
It was recent. It may have been even the last changelog. I don't really remember. But yes, it was recent. So it unlocked a whole new area to just add all these like little but in like super important things, like adding the client functionality. So now this works. So another checkbox of useful functionality for everyone. So thank you, Super Deep, for that. I was trying to figure out how to talk about this one. So this there's in the last 2 weeks there were a lot of changes to the language server and the IDE experience. And to just show this, I showed that the one PR I did for doing completions, like I closed 11 issues. So I was like, I don't know how to like. I think in interacting with language server, you have a lot of little annoyances that sometimes you just kind of ignore. Sometimes like, oh, I kind of wish it did that or whatever. There's so much like little things. So instead of talking about it in detail, I list some things here, but I'll just say that give it a try. You know, like I've probably said this before. Give it a try. Definitely, please file issues for even the most little. Like I don't like this. I wish it did that. You know, those are amazing because those are those things that are hard to find. You know, those little tiny annoyances. So I'm really grateful to all the people that made some of these. Some of these are bigger issues, but some of them are like, oh, you know, just a little thing. And being able to close them is satisfying for both of us, hopefully.
Yeah. How did you sleep at night after closing all these issues at once?
I think someone made an issue right after, so I was like, still no sleep for me. It's not true. Because I started working on source maps, I've dropped the language server from my mind for a little bit as much as possible.
You know, you closed 0.2% of our open issues.
I'll take it.
Is that a big number? I don't know.
I think
I'm
so.
taking it as a big number.
This PR, I mean?
Yeah.
Oh, nice.
I'll take it. That's a compliment.
Yeah.
Why is there no? Sorry, is there anything else to say about this one?
Oh.
All right. It says my next slide is. I don't understand. Okay. Anyway, here. So.
Wait, you said 11, right?
What?
You said 11 issues.
11 issues.
So, okay. So it's actually.
It's actually 20%.
Yeah. No, it's actually 2%.
Is it really?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
One out of 50, more or less.
Well, I'll take the even bigger compliment then.
Yeah. You see what I did there? I lowballed you, made you happy with 0.2, and then you know what? It's 10 times that.
What does it say about me that I just believed any number you said? I wasn't like, yeah, math checks out. Sounds good. We even talked about how many issues were open earlier.
Yeah, right.
And I was like, yeah, sounds good.
I'll take it.
All right, so console update. I don't know why I always put these at the end. I guess they're usually the most visual. But so here's one that like actually kind of a huge deal. That just so previously in the console, the logs would not, if they were longer than would fit in a single line, you just wouldn't be able to see what was like what got cut off.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of, and oftentimes logging like a JSON thing or logging like a, you know, you're probably
actual error message, the actual error message.
Yeah, you're probably gonna have that happen a lot. So this is pretty huge, and now it's actually expandable. Now it'll actually show the entire message, and just to sprinkle it, like that would have been enough for me, fixing that. But the Oh, did they? Oh, they did work. I guess I only remember them not working. I only used it at the time when it was.
They were expendable, but at some point we introduced a bug. Yeah.
Okay, fair. I'm curious how long that was, and maybe I'm just not using the console enough.
Yeah, I remember
Uh,
kind of like seeing that they were expendable, but not really able to use that in certain cases. Yeah, it was a little flaky.
well, hopefully it's flakeless now.
Flakeless.
And
Flakeless.
but to add on top of that, as mentioned here, that you can also click links that are in. So that's like a
Oh, wow,
super
that's
nice feature, which is
yeah.
probably going to be really common again for your login, your URLs, or your see the URL put anywhere.
Yep.
So yeah, now it's clickable.
Thank you, Shai.
Thank you for that. And that's actually it for the changelog.